Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Atlantis, Overdrive, out March 18th on A Rising Empire. This album has 10 tracks, 37 minutes in length, and this is the band's fourth full-length studio album. They are a German metalcore band. As far as the design goes, this record has a magnificent approach. You have the strength of the individual songs, and then you're putting them in the right order in order for the album to have life, to have movement, to have a sense of fluidity from start to finish, with some breaks here and there just for the listener to feel like there's a chance of catching your breath, and at the same time not allowing the album to feel flat, to feel repetitive. Great way of designing a record, great way to make an impact, a positive impact on the experience of the listener. And that's exactly what you want from a record like this. Also, being 37 minutes in length doesn't hurt. This actually adds to the overall playability, because when you listen to this record and you go through it so quickly, you're almost ready to go back to it again. You didn't have enough, or at least you don't feel like you've experienced enough of the album, and because the experience that you did have was so positive, was so engaging, was so entertaining, you're ready for more. This is exactly how you want a record to feel like. This is exactly how you want a record to play itself out. Have this ability to be fluid, have this ability to be dynamic, have the ability to be engaging, and not overplay itself by being too long or having too many tracks. Perfect design, perfect approach for a soundscape that's really going to hit home with the listeners and the fans of this band. A soundscape that doesn't pick sides. This album is not heavy, this album is not melodic, this album is a combination of both. During the more melodic stretches of this record, on a song-by-song basis or within the songs themselves, you're going to find that the heaviness is not that far away from it. There's still some heaviness mixed in with that melody. And the same could be said for the heavier side of the album. When you look at those heavier stretches of the record, you're still going to find melodic undertones in it. So it's an album that gives you those two sides, but it doesn't give you 100% of each. It allows one to permeate into the other. This makes the overall experience, the overall soundscape, feel like it's a little bit more controlled, feel like it's a little bit more straightforward, not changing as much, and you need certain jolts, either of melody or of heaviness, in order for that to break apart and for the record to have more of a bounce approach within the songs and from song to song. So having this consistency and having this overall soundscape really allows the record to feel even more compact, because the album is not stretched out. The album has a very narrow footprint. It feels controlled, it feels boxed in, which allows the record to almost have more volume, to feel bigger, without necessarily having to add heaviness in order to have that sort of atmosphere or that sort of essence. So I really like the sound, I like the quality of the sound. It's a very clean sounding record as well. But the perfect way of maximizing the volume or maximizing the aggression or intensity or even the melancholy of the album is to make sure that the soundscape stays controlled, make sure that there is a red line all the way through, and while you may pull that line up and down ever so slightly, you never really lose track of where you started and where you're going. This record has a very consistent sound signature from the first song all the way to the last song. You'll always have an idea of where the album is going to take you, but you're not really sure exactly how you're going to get there. That's the beauty of the sound of this album. An album that depends heavily on the drums and the guitars, but I definitely want to say something about the bass, because the bass really pops throughout this entire record, is very groovy. It helps define the sound, and it really helps the drums. So I really like the bass, I like the execution, I like the sound that it has, and definitely how it was mixed. But the cornerstones of this record are the drums and the guitars. On the drum side, the sound is really interesting because it doesn't flat out. I actually feel like the drums are one of the reasons why the overall soundscape feels so compact. When you look at the cymbals, for example, they have a very interesting presence on this album, but they don't overshadow the overall feeling of making the album a little bit thinner, giving it too much of a splash. They're still there, but they're a little bit better controlled in the overall sound experience of the drums. So I like how they put the drums together, help define the borders, not just grounding the sound, not just grounding the record, but also creating the shapes in which the sound is going to be fitted in. Really important if you're going to make an album have this sort of approach across all 10 songs. Now the guitars are a little bit more dynamic. The guitars have a little bit more movement. They don't follow into that same pattern as the drums do. Within the box, within the shape that the drums create, the guitars have the ability to move from side to side. In those movements, that's when you're going to see the aggression, that's when you're going to see the heaviness, and that's when you're going to see the melody and melancholy. Depending on which side of the box the guitars are leaning towards, you're going to get more of one or less of the other. Really interesting because it gives life, but it gives life without feeling too chaotic, without feeling stretched out, without feeling like it's losing the sense of direction. This album has a great sense of direction, and the guitars fall in line with that and allow the experience for the listener to be enjoyable, to be engaging, to be entertaining, to be filled with life. All of the energy that you're getting on this album, I would say most of it is coming from the guitar sound and how driven it is. The rest of it comes down to the vocals. Now, Nico on vocals is outstanding, great range, and he's on full display throughout the entire album. I love the cleans because I really feel like they are a little bit more emotional. They bring a little bit more emotion to the table. They allow the lyrics to come to life a little bit better. You feel better connected with that side because you're able to understand the message and understand where he's coming from a lot better. The harsh vocals really punch through. Their harsh vocals feel at times not completely out of control, because there's nothing on this record that's out of control, but they feel a little bit more loose. They feel a little bit more free. They're not as restrained as the clean vocals are. And you need that in order to help define the ebbs and flows of the album, because musically those ebbs and flows are already built in there, but vocally you need to do something to enhance them. And that's exactly what you're going to get vocally from his range, is this constant movement between the cleans and the harsh vocals. Now, I really enjoyed when they brought them together and they used the harsh vocals as the backdrop to the clean vocals, as layers, in order to give the sound and in order to give the songs a little bit more of a kick, in order to make them feel slightly bigger, slightly thicker, with a little bit more texture. Something that I thought worked really well for a soundscape that doesn't pick sides. So if you're not going to pick sides as far as the sound experience is concerned, always having the sound right in the middle, why not do the same vocally? And I feel like they did it throughout the entire album, and it works really well because they go hand in hand with one another. As far as albums from Breed Atlantis are concerned, this is my favorite record to date. And not because it's the latest album. I know it's a cliche, the new album is always the greatest album. I just feel like this is their sound, this is their most mature record. I love the ability of listening to a record, feel like the album has a constant approach, and even at its heaviest moment still has melody, and at its most melodic moment still sounds heavy. To me, that becomes the calling card of this record, and is the winning formula for a band like Breed Atlantis. Phenomenal record all around. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Dead and Gone. Killer intro, and that's something they do throughout the entire record. They really know how to set up a song, how to get things started. This one is the perfect example of that. It starts off heavy, and then it dips into a more melodic, melancholic sound and vocal approach. You see the way the song starts, it starts at 100, and then it starts slowly to dip down and move into a much different arena. Now, the harsh vocals are sprinkled in throughout the entire song, sometimes as backing vocals to the clean vocals in the chorus, which makes them feel a little bit bigger, gives a little bit more of a punch. It allows that chorus to set itself apart, but other times they come in just on their own in order to really give you a jolt of energy, change the eyesight of the listener. All around, this song has a great bass line, is really driven by the melodic guitar sound all around. The heaviness that exists on the track is always there, but you do get some jolts here and there in order for you to kind of like snap out of it, snap out of that trance, snap out of that linear format that you almost find yourself in from beginning almost all the way to the end. Next you have Heavy Hearts, another great song with another great intro. It just really gets you going from the start. Now this one is interesting because while the intro almost matches Dead and Gone in terms of the intensity and aggression that it has, the song itself feels very different because this is a song that stays more consistently heavy throughout. Dead and Gone stayed more consistently melodic and melancholic throughout with some jolts of heaviness. This one is the complete opposite. It feels more consistent heavily from start to finish with some jolts of melody and melancholy mixed into it. So it's the yin and the yang. These two songs are the polar opposites of one another, and they come right back from one into the next. So you're getting two songs that really offer you two different spectrums, working really well when you look at the sequence of tracks throughout the track list. Very dynamic track, very interesting, very driven in the verses, a little bit of a break in the chorus, which allows you to feel like you have ebbs and flows, ups and downs throughout the entire design of the song. But I love the fact that the heaviness, sometimes overall it overshadows the melodic approach that it has, and that's why at the end of the track you feel like this is a heavier song than Dead and Gone, and that's why you feel like Dead and Gone is a more melodic song than Heavy Hearts. Really interesting approach, how you can change just a few elements within the track and make two songs have a very similar structure but sound completely different. Last but not least, Out There, great bass line throughout this entire song. I really love how much it pops, I really love how much it sounds, the grooviness that it gives to the track, and how well it blends with the drums and guitars. Now, it has some heavy jolts in this track as well. This is a song that has more of a melodic backdrop. It allows that melody to really drive the experience all the way through, but every so often you get this just incredible push of intensity and aggression, almost waking you up from the slumber that you're in. Really interesting design, because once again it walks that fine line and it just allows you to feel different experiences as you're progressing your way through it. The clean vocals on this song are outstanding. They're really phenomenal. They have a great tone, they have a great delivery, and when you look at the lyrical content, you just feel like the vocals match the emotion that is represented in the lyrics. Great underlying melody, allowing the song to have some texture, some volume. It's a song that sets itself apart from any other track on the album just by how the soundscape is put together, how the vocals work through that soundscape, and how everything comes as one. This is it, Breed Atlantis, Overdrive, out March 18th on A Rising Empire. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.